So hello guys, what's up and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's me, your girl Barrister Neze, and this is Nezeville. About a week ago, we covered a story about Barrister Adachukwu Chukelu Okafor, who took a 10-year-old girl in as a help. And after one or two accusations, she brutalized her. You guys know the story. We've done 2 videos on it, and I'm going to leave the link pinned in the description box. Now, aside people expressing their distaste about what happened, about the whole incident, one major comment and feedback that I got on those videos is, Neze, why is employing a 10-year-old girl even in question? Why are we talking about it? Why is it legal? Why are you not addressing that side of the story, hammering on it? Is that the normal? Don't we have child laws and child abuse acts and labor laws that protect children? Why should a 10-year-old girl be a domestic staff in the first place? And some people ask that question genuinely for lack of knowledge at all, not with malice. They honestly wanted to know, what is the system like in Nigeria? This is so strange and so weird to hear, because where I come from, it is not allowed. Now, this would be a very thought-provoking video, especially because of the dissimilarities in the cultures and the ways of life of different people watching me. So at first, some things may sound strange, but trust me, as you proceed with the video, as you keep watching, it will get clearer. I believe that I am in the best position, absolute best position, to address this issue, because as a Nigerian girl, as an African woman, I have lived all my life in Nigeria, and now as an adult, as a parent with children, I am now living in the West. So let us just say that I have experienced best of both worlds. So I am very well informed and equipped to address this issue. So I have read in the comments, some of the comments. Some people say, I live in Germany, and I live in America, I live in the United Kingdom, and I live in Spain. And where I live, nobody has the right to take another person's child of this age and house them and subject them to doing chores. Taking underage children as helps is a crime, and that alone should come with its own punishment. And I would say I agree. Now, the first agenda on this topic that we must discuss is the agenda of structure. We are going to be comparing a place of systematic structure versus a place of systematic decay. In Europe and many other developed countries, you would agree with me that the citizens are the country's biggest resources. Human resources are the country's biggest assets, because if you do not have the right and the best human resources, you will not even be able to take maximum advantage of your natural resources. So life is sacred, is valued, it's treasured, and it's protected. Narrowing it down to children. Children are seen as the future, rightly so, and they are treated with utmost care, concern, and investment. The system is working, and the system is structured. Poverty may exist, but poverty is minimalized. It is not weaponized. The basic needs of life are accessible and attainable. They are within reach, and in situations of lack, it can either be provided or subsidized by the government. What are the basic needs of life? Food. Here in the West, we have food banks, functioning food banks, run by the government, run by churches, run by private individuals, run by charity organizations. Functioning food banks where you do not need to queue and get killed, just as 7 people in Lagos died last week because they were queuing to buy a bag of rice. I didn't say get for free. They were queuing to buy a bag of rice at a lower price. There was a stampede and 7 people died. We're going to come to Nigeria and Africa, but let us discuss this. Now, this is a system where food can be provided for you for free if you cannot afford it. What is the next basic need of life? Shelter. We have functioning shelters and homes. Shelters for abused children, shelters for abused women, shelters for old people, shelters for highly impoverished people, shelters for vulnerable people. And if you find yourself in intense financial crisis, there is an avenue where you can apply to be sheltered for free until you get your feet back. Okay, that's shelter. What's next? Clothing. Here in Canada, where I stay, and in many other countries in the West, there are a number of them, uncountable, several drop-in and pick-up centers where people who need clothing can go and pick clothing, summer clothing, winter clothing for themselves, their children, their family, neatly used clothing, so they do not need to steal or beg for clothes. They do not need to steal or beg for food. They do not need to steal or beg for housing. Are you seeing how poverty is checked and mitigated and minimalized? Okay, now we're talking about basic needs. What about other non-basic needs? Education. Your children can access the best education in the West, even if you are indigent. Beautifully structured, aesthetically pleasing places with qualified teachers. They can get free education from the government without having to spend any money. Are you seeing all of these things I'm highlighting? Do you know what it's amounting to? It's amounting to a lesser need to depend on another man's benevolence. It is driving self-sufficiency and reducing dependency. You see the government paying you for having children, giving you subsidies and grants and different kinds of income labeled with different names to care for your children depending on your family income. A personal experience: recently I applied for a little sport grant as a newcomer. I was entitled to getting a sport grant, and my integration officer, their staff available on ground, whose duty it is to ensure that I integrate properly in this country. And I was informed by my integration officer that I can apply for a sport grant to subsidize the fee for my children to play sports. So the government would pay me money for my children to engage in physical activity. That is not a need. That is leisure. That is pleasure. That is a want. But the government is still involved in ensuring that my children do not only get their basic needs, but they also enjoy wants. And if you think that surprised me, wait for this part. After the grant came, I got an email from an organization telling me that please, I qualify to get free sporting equipment in whatever sports of chosen my children have taken to. Basketballs, skating shoes, skating helmets, anything I need, I should please come and take for the kids. And I pinched myself. I said, share you they wine me knee. Share you they wine me knee. I pinched myself and said, Ogini na fio. That's so what they do for here.
That's what they do for here. Hey!
Life, a single life, is so treasured that the government does not mind expending $200,000 to save one human being whose life is in jeopardy. That, my dear brothers and sisters, is a systematic structure. And tell me what parents that find themselves in this environment, this kind of environment, would give up their children to go and live with another person, even if it was legal to do so. No, nobody. Because that kid can be cared for either by you or by the government or by a combination of the two, depending on the situation. And even if that child in your custody is not well taken care of, there is a system in place where that child can be retrieved from you, taken from you, and cared for by the government, housed, fed, schooled by the government. I hope you're following me. Okay, let's take it back home. A situation of systematic rot and decay. At this point, I would like to remind you, if you're not subscribed, this is the time, right here and right now. Hit the subscribe button, give this video a big thumbs up, and begin to drop all your comments and feelings down in the comment section. So let's proceed. In many African countries, in Nigeria for example, I'm going to use my country as a case study because that is where I have lived and experienced. No one, absolutely no one, is government property. Maybe the only people that we can say are government property are government officials themselves and their families. All man for himself. What did I say? You are on your own. A man would be responsible and cater to all his basic needs and all his wants. Oh, please don't even get me started on hobbies. His medical care is on him. Children's schooling and feeding is on him. Except you want to go to schools like this, then you can go to the government schools. Down to security. You would pay for estate security. You will pay for gateman security. Even a man's security is on him. Down to even infrastructure. Yes, many times we find private individuals take up government responsibilities and provide infrastructure for themselves. These streets, they're always robbing there, they're always kidnapping. Residents will be called to come and donate money to put the street lights. This community, they've not had electricity for 4 years. Members of the community will be called to contribute for a transformer. This ditch at the entrance of this street has been causing all the cars to have problem. Members of that estate will contribute to fix the road. So not only is a man here in Africa or Nigeria responsible for his needs, he also finds himself taking up government responsibility and providing infrastructure for himself. Okay, we're coming. It is an all man for himself situation, and anything you cannot afford, you will lack or you will beg. Unlike children, who are the government's responsibilities, the apple of the government's eyes in these developed countries. Back home, children are entirely the responsibilities of their parents and their families. Never, ever the government. There is a lack of structure to care for or protect these children because there is an entirely lack of investment from the government. What you do not invest in, you cannot care for. And yes, there are some laws. We have some laws that have been domesticated, that we lifted from these developed countries. But the issue of practicality always comes into play, because for law to thrive, for law to be practiced, there must be a structure upon which the law can be upheld. Laws do not operate in a vacuum. Laws need a system to be implemented. So we have a government back home that all salaries of workers, people that worked for the money, all their salaries for 2 years, 1 year, 9 months, 3 years, and all pensioners, they're not giving these pensioners free money. They were deducting monthly from the salaries of these pensioners. And when these people are old and retired, give me back the money that you took from me. One man has embezzled 100 billion pensioners' funds, and this government cannot pay pensioners their own money and cannot pay salary earners their own wages. Is that the government you expect to have provision to care for other people's children? If the parents are lacking, we are driving somewhere. Stay with me. Is that the government that you expect will be going to rescue abused children to keep them where? Where will you keep them? Is there any place, any provision to keep any home, any shelter? Is there anywhere? The best they can do is to take that child and dump the child in an orphanage. There is a lack of structure. And this consequently brings us to the issue of poverty. Oh, Nigeria used to be a very rich country. Stinkingly rich, if I can use that language. Blessed in natural resources and minerals and human resources. Nigerians are one of the most intelligent people in the world. We stand out. Permit me to brag. If you go somewhere and you see indigenes of many African countries, when you see a Nigerian, we are always sharp. We are always so intellectual. Nigerians have one of the best human resources in the world. Then talk about natural resources. Oil, natural gas, coal, cocoa, rubber, titanium, name it. Very rich country. But amidst these blessings, we have a major curse. A major curse that is like an iron tied to the leg of a man, a metal tied to the ankle of a great swimmer. Regardless of his swimming skills, he will keep sinking. And that is the Nigerian situation. Do you know the plague? It is called poor leadership. In Nigeria, corruption is the order of the day. We have situations where one man, one human being, can loot as much as 500 billion naira. $200 million, $500 million. The commonwealth of the people. Funds that have been reserved for the common good of the populace. One man and his family would wipe it all off. Depleting and looting the national treasury. And when looting and corruption goes unchecked, goes unabated, it will certainly, consequently, result in an extremely impoverished nation. So now we find ourselves with a greater population of people, impoverished and destitute, and then combined with a system that is neither directly nor indirectly responsible for its citizenry, combined with high levels of illiteracy. What this would ultimately climax in is a situation where people that have many children have very little resources to cater to these children. Hence, they have to give out some of these children to other more financially stable families to assist them raise the children. And given the highly communal nature of Nigerians, that structure becomes workable. I hope you're still following. Now, this structure of taking other people's children in has been in place since time immemorial. I mean in Nigeria. I'm sure many of us watching me who grew up in Nigeria back then must have had some aunties and uncles that lived with us. These aunties lived in our homes, cared for us, took care of the house, chores, and in exchange, our parents would either send them to school or help them to learn a trade or a skill. Some sewing, some hairdressing, some baking. Many of them are currently standing firm on their feet, caring for their own families and maintaining a relationship with these their former benefactors. It is not seen or perceived here in Nigeria as a child labor situation, as a domestic maid situation. It is more like a temporal adoption system, more like taking the child away from poverty and bringing them to a better place, more like trying to help the family of this person. It's important I add that many of these people, these children, come from abject, skin-piercing poverty. Many of them do not go to schools in the villages where they are picked from. They can't even feed. Eating once a day is a luxury. Many of them have very dysfunctional family backgrounds. You see their father, a drunk, come back home and start beating their mother up in their one-bedroom apartment where 8 of them share and they sleep on the floor, everywhere smelling, and they're living in the slums in a very unhealthy environment, and day in, day out, that child is hawking fufu, hawking granite, hawking for her own mother. And before you know it, one useless brother will lure the little girl into a room and damage her, and before you know it, the child is pregnant at 13, and then the cycle begins again. So this system came about where more financially stable families take out some of these children and integrate them into their homes to give them a better life and better opportunities. Where they are coming from is not manageable. Bring them from a more deplorable situation. Don't forget that no parent that has the means to care for their child would rather their child leave them and go and live with somebody else. So it is usually a survival effort. So this person is taken out to go to school or to learn a trade while performing domestic chores in the house. Chores that are even a lot lesser than they were doing with their own parents and in their own parents' house. Wash the plates, clean your environment, tidy around, those kinds of basic chores that even the child of that woman, if the woman is sensible, chores that even her own children should also be doing. The plan is never for that child to just stay at home and be doing chores. That child is originally supposed to be sent to school or trained in a school for handwork, a skill. You see a grandma, for example, all her children are grown and they are married, and this grandma brings in a 13-year-old child to come and live with her. In the morning, the child will dress up and go to school, and when the child comes back and eats and relaxes, the child would sweep and tend to grandma. If you hear that in Spain, you will call that child labor, because according to Spanish laws, that is child labor. But I am telling you the reality in Nigeria. Such arrangements are common practice as long as there is no abuse. Now that is the challenge. Many wicked people, because they are intolerable to other people's children, they cannot stand any mistakes that other people's children make, but they give a long rope to their own children. They take advantage of these children because they are impoverished, nobody to speak for them, nobody to defend them, and they start abusing them, maltreating them, enslaving them. The original Nigerian structure of that situation is for that child to be just like your child. And that is why even in Igbo culture, when somebody wants to ask a woman of that child, you don't ask, Ele, where is your wodubu? Wodubu means house help or slave. They ask, Kebe wadi no. That's where is your child. Because originally, that child is supposed to be just like your child. Taking that child away from their home is to give them a better chance and opportunity in life, not to enslave or maltreat them. It's supposed to be love. And that is why you see that in Nigeria, despite there are all of these laws existing on paper, you will never find the police going to raid women that have children in their homes that are not theirs and start arresting them. Only when abuse and maltreatment comes in. Unlike abroad, in these other crimes where it should not even happen at all, because there is a system that can support impoverished people. I hope you're getting the genesis of how all these things stemmed. So now I want to ask you, having explained the foundation and the genesis of this system where younger children find themselves living with other people, I would like us to discuss our bones of contention. And so I would ask, if happiness was treated with utmost kindness and love, and she was made to do chores around the house that a 10-year-old should do, age-appropriate chores, will the issue reside in the age of the girl, or is the issue on the whole concept of would it still make any difference to you? Begin to drop your comments down in the comment section. Although some people that are pro the idea of bringing in children of 15, 16 insist that a 10-year-old is too young regardless of whatever the situation is. It's better the 10-year-old remains with their parents even if they are dying or they are starving there. 10-year-old in another person's house is not okay. What are your thoughts about this? Are you of the opinion that if the child is cared for and treated just as the children of the woman, and in turn the child undergoes chores that even the woman's children should undergo, would it still be a challenge for you? Or do you believe that none at all, this should not happen at all? Now that you have the picture of why this is happening, I would like you to air your opinions realistically and pragmatically. Don't say what obtains in England and US, given the background information that I have given you of the reality that we are facing here in Nigeria. What do you think about this system where parents send off their young children to go and reside with other people in the hope of better opportunities and the better future? It is a subject up for debate, and I would like to have all your comments and your thoughts down in the comment section. So guys, yes, we have come to the end of today's video. If you're new here, you're just seeing me for the first time, or if you've been watching without subscribing, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, give this video a big thumbs up, drop all your comments down in the comment section, and stay glued because we have so much more coming your way. It's me, your girl Barrister Neze, and this is Nezeville. I'll see you guys in my next one. For now, bye.